Hello. Hey, what's up, classmates? So here we are, John and I. John, what's up? We are the Arab Bros.
Getting ready to present.
That's right. We're doing the Arab Project, obviously. So we're just gonna talk a little bit about the cultural practices, values, applications, you name it. And so kick back, relax. Well, actually, don't relax. But John and I are gonna take you through this Arab presentation. And let's begin, shall we? All right. So that was just a intro video for you guys. But moving on. Oops. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about Arab culture and just give you guys a couple bullet points. But without further ado, let's do this. So the language is mostly Arabic and English. And the religion, it's mainly Muslim. That's the main religion kept by the Arabs. That's where they believe that Muhammad is the last prophet in a line of prophets sent to the world. That's after Jesus, but they also regard Abraham and Moses. They hold them in high regards as well. But it's Muhammad. That's the greatest prophet who brought the Quran. And So of course they include Jesus as just another prophet, unfortunately. But one of their practices that they do daily is that they pray 5 times a day. It's pretty good discipline. I think we could take a couple pointers from these people. But
Yeah.
John, you want to take this next list here?
Yeah, just interesting ways that they set aside week and like just take time to set aside and like honor and like make holidays and just honor their God and give a reverence to the God, and how Ramadan is a holy month where you fast, like they fast during the day and can only work 6 hours per day, so a light part-time pretty much work. So pretty much it's I found that fascinating how they set aside just like full months for God, and that was pretty amazing. That here in this day and age, when we're always rush to get things done, that this culture has decided to set aside a month where they can honor their God. And also, I found it interesting the men and women. Another culture, another thing that they have is the men and women don't meet each other in public, and I found that was interesting, very fascinating. Because I'm a very social guy, so like I'll go talk just about anybody who like respond to me and like talk back. So I mean that would be really weird, like seeing a friend or a girlfriend of mine and just like, what's up? And like, or me not being able to do that because the culture dictates that no talking in public. Like I just see her on the street, like what's up, and I can't like talk to her. And not to mention, I probably wouldn't be able to recognize her. I might be able to recognize her, but with the head covering. But that's just a weird that we don't see that, but they're know each other, and also they're only eat with the right hand and not with the left hand. I found that interesting. I was like, why? Like, because I found it might be a disadvantage also because those people who are left-handed, like, if they can't eat with the dominant hand, so they like have to learn it's almost a sin or it's unclean. It's not right to eat with the dominant hand, so they have to learn how very quickly if they don't want to be seen as going against what the law of the land is. That was a very interesting fact that I saw. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I know I for one would have a problem with this one since I am left-handed. So that'd be kind of tough for me. But I do have a little quick story on this subject actually. I took an internship program, and during that, the staff pretended this was for a special training event where I had to minister to a different culture and try and like spread the gospel. And they pretended to be a Muslim group. And so, of course, they upheld this rule where you could not use your left hand, and so I had to eat with my right hand, which wasn't too bad. But apparently, um, the reason for not using left hand is because it is indeed unclean. Because I guess that's what people use to wipe themselves in the bathroom. So yeah, I guess I can see how eating with that hand would be a little, I guess, unclean. Anywho, moving on. All right, so apparently part of the culture there's not much regard for personal space. So you might want to think about that next time you're backing up from someone. They might that might offend them if you're backing up. So just these things that we don't really think about. Of course, the exception is for women. So you'll see that kind of throughout this presentation, there's sort of a barrier between men and women where it's very difficult to associate or mix the male and female groups. There's sort of like this wall where you're not supposed to greet them, and so just don't get near or dare I say it, touch them. Like no, do not do that at all. So yeah, of course, mind your boundaries with women, but I guess not if you're the same gender. Okay, but so going on, alcohol is forbidden. Sorry, guys. Um, I found this interesting. I feel like each culture has their own table manners and and rules for what is offensive and what isn't. And so for the Arab culture, leaving food on a plate is a positive thing, because it shows that the host, can afford to keep you well fed and to have more on the side. And so that is a good sign. Um, Also, body language is different as well. Just for example, right, that A-OK sign, that is the evil eye apparently, and so that's basically like flipping someone off. Um, so yeah, don't do that around your students. Otherwise, you're probably gonna have some angry or confused parents. Of course, if you're having trouble getting some of the parents there for like a parent-teacher meeting, you just give the student the A-OK sign, and you'll quickly have the parents coming up and conversing with you. Maybe not on the best of terms, but they will nonetheless. So real quick, uh, our own Jonathan Moore here had an interview with a student. John, you want to give a little intro on that first?
Yeah, Nathan, he's 10. I'm not sure when his birthday is, but 11. He is 10 years old, and he's been studying with my mom for about a year and a half now. So it's been fun to get to know. We knew the family earlier, but they just started bringing the kids. Nathan and Lulu, and um, they've been staying with my mom for a year and a half now, and it's been good to get to know the family uh, within that year and whatnot. But yeah, it's just in the extended family, the whole family. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, just get to know the family and different cultures have as a family. So yeah, that's Nathan.
All right, so we're just gonna listen to this clip of the interview that John was able to have with Nathan. So listen up.
I wish I could dress up like that.
All right, so I think we'll stop it there. If you want to listen to the full interview, I believe it is posted on the guiding sheet, the handout sheet that we posted with you guys. But just wanted to have you sit through the entire thing. John, any concluding thoughts on the interview, on how it went or anything like that?
No, yeah. As you pointed out, just for fact, headdress that you see on several of the girls, that is what Nathan was talking about. And you have the men there in their robes, and that's sort of what Nathan referenced. But other than that, no, just I haven't really seen a lot of traditional dress because unfortunately I was not able to make it to the wedding, but I heard good. But yeah, I have heard about yeah, I was really bummed that. But yeah, no, I'm good. That's about it. Just some comments on what Nathan mentioned.
Exactly. Yep. All right, moving on then. John, you want to take this one as well?
Yeah, the lack of eye contact for same gender, that's meaning they're unimportant. I have to say I've never noticed. Um, I've always put it a different way. I've always noticed that Mr. Muhammad and Nathan Lewin have always, every single part of the family I've talked to, have always made eye contact. After hearing these features, I was like, oh, that makes sense because like it's really nice because sometimes it's like people like shifting their head, like are they paying attention to me? I think it's one thing that our culture may have lost is we still think of if the person's not looking at me, but if they look at me, I know that at least they're. But I think that's one cool thing about the Arab culture is that eye contact is a form of respect, and lack of eye contact is saying that no, you're unimportant. I don't even think you're important enough to look at while you're talking to me. Uh, and especially for the same gender, as Ian said, you see it. Make sure like okay, you don't have to make eye contact with the girl if you're a guy, but vice versa. But if you're two guys, make eye contact with two girls, make eye contact. So that's a interesting factor of that. Tardiness, yes, tardiness is okay. They will like you can show up 3 hours late to a party, and they'll still be like, "Hey, cool, welcome. You missed out on 3 hours of fun, but hey, you get a couple more hours of fun. Come join us." And that's really fascinating. We've done that. Like we've just had other plans. Like, hey, thanks for the invite, but we can show up later. And go, yeah, come on, yeah, that's cool. And so that's really nice to know that you're not being, in this day and age of a very fast pace and get it now. It's very nice to know that you can take your time. You don't have to rush. You're not going to judge you for not being on time. And just things like that. It's nice to know. That's a very cool. I think that's really nice to have that in your religion, in your culture. That you don't have to. And we say target on time. Like they say, show up whenever. So you're never actually late. They just say it starts now, but you can show up whenever. And then when you get into Islam, submission. Nathan mentioned about the ratio between Christians and Muslims, and that's definitely most likely a Eritrean as an exception, but how main religion in Arab countries and how 12% of Muslim are Arabs. I thought that was interesting. Like, I mean, I would have guessed Islam was around the top, one of the top religions, but I didn't realize it was one of the third in the world, and so that was pretty shocking, but sobering. Yeah. And then Islam's five pillars of faith. Looking at these, the declaration of faith, prayer, alms, fasting, pilgrimage. I realized that somewhere in all these pillars have something to do with work. Like you must pray, you have to make a declaration of faith, give alms, and go fasting and pilgrimage. Whereas in contrast with the God of the Bible and God of the Christian faith is a merciful God and he not requiring works. Islam, God, all of it is required of works, and where Christianity is Christ. And I found out that contrast was very sharp contrast between those pillars of faith and the Christian religion. So that was one thing that I found from that research of five pillars of faith on Islam. So yeah, you have anything, Ian?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
I think just for that point that not all Muslims are Arabs, that's just kind of one of the misconceptions, I guess. Just thinking people think that all Arabs are just automatically Muslims. Not really true. 12% of those Muslims are Arabs. So just keep that in perspective.
Yeah.
Moving on. John, you're on a pretty good roll. You want to talk about the mosque here?
Yeah, I would talk about. I found this fascinating. I'd always known that Ian mentioned the five required prayers per day, and I'd always known okay. I know they point some direction towards Mecca, but I didn't realize that was actually why they actually point toward Mecca. And the why is what something in Mecca. It's called the Kaaba, which is a shrine, and it's considered the most holy place on earth to a Muslim. And I found it interesting that that's where they They bury their dead. They well, they don't bury their dead there. They would point their facing their dead, point their dead when they bury them, and that's where they pray, and they give the utmost reverence to. I found that also in contrast with the Christian faith. We go to church and we would go dressed up in whatever. I mean, it varies from church to church, and some churches have their requirements, and you're frowned upon if you don't wear a suit and tie and whatnot. Some churches, we go there and we're like, okay, we sit down. We have a more lax, I won't say, yeah, it's a more lax respect, but if you look at the Islam faith and Muslim faith, that they still have that essence of reverence and respect to their God. Even if it's a false God, they have that respect, and that's impressive. I mean, to show you call that God, so why would you go to a church and not really show much respect to something you call your God? So that's something I found fascinating with the Great Mosque, and how that's where they bow when they pray. So they're showing reverence to the God. And the history behind that is a little interesting. As legend goes, it was like when Adam was kicked out of the garden, he was given a piece of the garden, and then so that piece of the holy place, the holy garden of Eden. So that's why it's so reverenced. It was given to God, fell from heaven, and it was destroyed, but it got rebuilt by like Abraham and Moses, and you don't hear about that apparently. But it was rebuilt by some of the other prophets that in the Quran, and so that was an interesting fact I found about that. And so that's interesting. Found that fascinating.
Good stuff. All right, so John has an activity for you. If you go to the worksheet, the handout, you can learn about the Kaaba and take the quiz and learn more about that. So pause the video, take a second, go back to that handout sheet that we provided for y'all, and take that quiz. All right, and moving on. All right, here's my contribution. We're going to do a little poll practice. Question of the day: which Arab practice would you choose if we had to institutionalize it in our culture? So again, that link is also on the handout sheet. So your options are A, alcohol is forbidden, B, tardiness is okay, C, everyone eats with their right hand, D, everyone is ordered to pray 5 times per day, or E, it's good to leave food on your plate. So go ahead, vote for that, and hopefully the results will come in. But moving on, we're going to move on to what Arabs value, and each culture values different things, and I believe there are pros and cons to each. But we're going to look at some of the things that the Arabs value and see how they are different from our own. Okay, so first off, they really seem to be family oriented, kind of like in the interview with Nathan, and I think it goes for pretty much all Arabs. They treat family responsibility seriously. And just with that whole family theme, you know, they're close to their extended family, which tend to be pretty large. So obviously, the more the merrier with the family numbers, so that just the sons can look after the parents, and that they can kind of build their own communities. And so I found that interesting and a positive and valuable thing. Just to really value the family. But also shame and insults, those are avoided and taken seriously. So next time you're talking to an Arab student or something, mind the sarcasm, just because in case you might be offending them without trying to. But I mean, of course, you don't really want to don't really want to insult people in general either. So please don't do that. Okay, but moving on. Also, they
Yeah.
value wisdom. John, you agree with me there? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, the how the close I've noticed in like we've been over to the house multiple times, and there's just been, especially like around the holidays, like there's a ton of family around. And I know like my parents, like I talked about the wedding earlier, but they were just there like the one time, and a relative was a cousin, and he was getting married, and so he was like, hey, my parents were there. He had not met them before. He's like, hey, everybody come to my wedding, come to my wedding, you guys come to my wedding. And they're like, really? Like, you don't know us? And so, yeah, come. And so, like, they went to the wedding. So that was pretty cool. And I've noticed that with the closeness and being family oriented, how like Louis and are very close to like, a lot of their cousins. So yeah, that's pretty cool to see.
Hmm. All right, we got another open-ended question. How do Arab values differ from ours as Americans? And which Arab values would we do well to emulate? Um, so if you guys have been listening to John and I, we basically just gave you a bunch of answers because I think we're kind of in favor of some of the values that the Arabs have. But again, I believe that question is also on the cheat sheet, as I call it. But anywho, just some food for thought to think about. All right, moving on to our next section, working with Arab students. John, take the wheel.
Yeah, I'll take it. All right, yeah. So I've worked with Lou and Nathan for at least since the year my mom started the year before I left for college. So I got to know them and work with them. Just sometimes like it'll take them, they'll like do the work, but you know that the thought process, like they'll think things through further ahead, so and they'll just think things differently, and that's with every child, but especially I noticed with Nathan Lulu that they'll do that, and so like I'll just ask Lulu like a question, and she'll like sit there for maybe like 10 seconds, maybe 15, and sometimes you have to tell her, okay, Lulu, you got to answer because she'll just sit there, but I've noticed that their answers are much more mature and very cohesive and thought through in a very coherent way, which sometimes is impressive. I'm like, oh, I didn't think that. That's a really good answer. Like, I'm glad. You can tell a little bit in the interview that Nathan is like thinking through his answer, and he even says like, "This is that's cool, Nathan. Yeah, I'm cool with that." But yeah, it was good to interview him, and that's the thought process they think through very slowly. And as Nathan said, that's one of the key things that I've noticed with these guys, that you got to be patient and maybe like give them the work ahead of time, let them work on it. But yeah, got to be the key thing. So that's what I've noticed just working with those two. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So these facts here are just an article I found, just to a couple tips when you're working with Arab students. Just always be aware of stereotypes, and just misconduct that is going on towards them. Though they may have a self concept, a healthy one at that. Just so self image. That of course there's still discrimination, and because they're still a minority, so of course it's good to encourage those kids.
Yep.
John, help me out here.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the one before, even like Nathan said, he didn't really see much, and that might be because of the closeness in the family. And so, as a teacher, and like as those like, if we're seeing him, we see that, make sure like even from other teachers, like, hey, like be patient with him. Like he knows what he's doing. Like just let them, so they're not biased and discriminating towards them because oh he's a slow student. No, just go get it, and like just know that, and so work with other, so you don't see that. And like if they need more time, if it says students that students may be late, they need to give more time. So yeah, give more time. Like, be patient with them. And, like, they may move around. Like, they're used to having fun. So, like, yeah, let them relax and, like, give them break times. Yeah, and know how to work with them. And it's mentioned that reading is not as important to Arabs to focus on oral recitation. So I've noticed I actually had an assignment with Nathan. He was supposed to give a book report, and he had the option to either write it down or give. And I was gonna have him write it down, but he like came and asked me, "Hey, can I give an oral? Like Mrs. Moore said I could do an oral," and he like came and asked me like twice. And I'm like, "Yeah, he obviously wants to do the oral, so yeah, sure, go ahead." He did a really good job. And I'm like, "Oh." Then looking at this research, oh yeah, they do well in oral recitation, and that's their strong point. So yeah, maybe give them all assignments versus uh, written ones, and maybe work with don't decline writing, but still go with a strong point in oral. And so yeah, and also in the China, the big family, like you help everybody helps everybody else, and they're a one unit. So when you're cheating, yeah, I can see that. Like, hey, he's not helping me out, so I'm gonna go over and help myself out anyway. So maybe if they don't see that as cheating, they're just seen as classmate helping them out, and so which they are. But in this culture, in American culture, that's called cheating. So maybe you have to work with them, not just come down on the hammer with them, but work with them to understand American culture and how that's not allowed, and maybe work with them like, okay, if you have a question, come to me and I'll help you. Not don't go pick over somebody's children. Maybe that's a way to work with them as they're so they don't cheat. Yeah. So that's something I noticed.
Nice. So again, another open-ended question. How can you help Arab students in your future classroom? So that right there, that picture, that's your future classroom right there, all right? We're gonna fill that up pretty soon. But just, another piece of fruit for you to feed on, food for thought here. Just how can we really encourage Arab students in the classroom? And I think John, you had a lot of good points there. A lot of good points of helping these kids out. Let's continue. Again, with everything, it's good to look at it through a Christian perspective. So I give you through the Christian lens. A lot of these Arabs with a Muslim background, of course, they hold to the Quran, which actually includes the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah/Pentateuch. So really, I mean, good point to start on is, hey, talk Bible stories with them, at least for the first 5 books, because they hold, like I said before, Abraham and Moses, they still hold those biblical characters in high regards, as do we. They regard them as powerful prophets, and so I feel like that's a pretty good springboard for conversation. Islam also surprisingly regards the Injil highly, which is actually the gospel of Jesus, and so that also is a good common ground. I had a coworker that was Muslim, and so I talked Bible with him, and I mentioned the Injil, which he was familiar with, and so he was like, "Oh yeah, we read the Injil too," and so I was able to kind of talk to him, just kind of, okay, so let's talk about that Jesus character, and kind of just I pointed out just some of the things that Jesus said, some of the radical things, just saying that he was the way, the truth, and the life. Prophets don't usually say that, and so I was kind of just trying to convince him that Jesus was different. Especially when he says that he's calling himself God, and so it was nice, common ground to be able to talk to him about that. So just these are things to keep in mind, possibly when you're ministering to these kids. Couple scriptures here, of course, to back up these claims. these are not to be shoved down students' throats. Please don't do that. I don't think they would appreciate it. But just again, these are just to remind us of why Jesus is different, and just some of the faults with the Quran. Should the opportunity arise, or if the students have questions, yeah. So just these verses that Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Bam, right there. That's not a common prophet saying. But again, John 10:30, I and the Father are one. Just simple, straight right there. But once again, please do not shove these down people's throats. John 10:30, you need to believe.
Yeah, yeah. With everything here, it says with everything, be ready. Like that's not something you have to shove down. You just you might have that as a quote board, like on your thing, not like referencing First Peter, but maybe it said with all things, be prepared, and have that that's your class motto, and just tie that in with them, and have them have that values and have that morals of not morals but values of with everything. We'll be ready, like schoolwork, assignments. If we don't, we help each other. We're a family, and also you can build that in. So yeah, that's something you can build in, and not quite as Ian said, ram it down the throats, but just introduce into that maybe one day if they open the Bible, say, hey, Peter talks about with everything we are ready, and that might be one door open into their coming to a saving grace and saving knowledge of Christ. So that's one way to open. Be subtle about it, but also share your Christian faith. So yeah.
And that is a good idea, John. But exactly, Peter says, but in your hearts honor Christ, the Lord is holy. Be prepared to give it offense for the hope that is in you. And again, do it with gentleness and respect, right? That's what I'm trying to cram down your guys' throats. Be gentle. Anyways, especially if you're working in the public school system, you don't want to be shoving Christianity down people's throats. You want to lead by example, look for opportunities to, I guess, wheel it in there. Final open-ended question. Just, think about what made Jesus so special. And can you give another instance where Jesus proved that he just wasn't just another prophet, and what really separated him from the crowd of prophets, that is. That's all we have for you folks. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week. No, actually, don't do that. But this has been our exactly. This has been our air presentation. I am Ian Edwards.
And I'm Jonathan Moore.
And we'll see you next. No. Take care,
you guys.
And fill out that handout sheet. Take care.